This is a show about getting spooked for fun, and neither one of the hosts are associated with the attractions discussed in any way, except for those skeletons in Devin's closet. Some topics may go from ghoulish to ghastly, so viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to the Great American Scream.
The time is now. On an evening very much like the one we have just witnessed, tonight's story of the podcast is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction. If you could raise those DDDs up, thank you. This, as you may recognize, is the maintenance service elevator, still in operation, waiting for you. We invite you, if you dare, to step aboard because in tonight's episode, you are the star. And this elevator travels directly to the gift shop. That's right. I survived the Great American Scream.
If that was annoying, you can. If that was annoying and persistent in the background, you can cut it out.
Okay, that's fine, but I will leave in the part where you say we can cut it out so that the audience knows you did it the whole time.
Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great American Scream. My name is Devin Wright.
My name is Adam O'Connell, and today we are going to talk about another one of the best rides the Walt Disney Company has ever made. Ladies and gentlemen, amidst the glitz and glitter of a bustling movie town at the height of its golden age, the Twilight Zone, Tower of Terror.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing our long-running, highly anticipated series of episodes on Disney.
This will probably be like, how many more can we? None of them are really out there, like horror themed.
This is our 17th one of these. If you missed the last one, it was about Slinky Dog Dash, the scariest of Hollywood Studios attractions. But no, we're going to talk about, like Adam said, probably the best Disney attraction ever made in terms of theming. The Tower of Terror.
It's maybe not as iconically like haunted or like
right, but the Haunted Mansion isn't haunted either.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's not what we think of as like a haunted ride, but terror is quite literally right there in the title. So
right, it is a horror attraction.
Absolutely.
And or a suspense attraction. A suspended attraction.
It's all of those things at once. We talked a little bit about this ride in the Top 5 Scary Attractions episode, but today we're going to take a deep dive.
Right. I mean, our second episode ever was about the Haunted Mansion, and I think it's one of our best.
Yeah.
So why not recreate the magic
of the good old days? Now, I have a very complicated relationship with this ride.
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
I love everything about it except for the dropping, which is like kind of like
that's what the ride is.
That's like the thing, right?
That's the whole ride.
We've talked about my dropping phobia on this show before, and I'm truly trying to give myself exposure therapy with this ride.
Okay.
And that hopefully one day I will learn to love it. I've been on it once.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get married in the courtyard by the gift shop. So I feel like I need to just give it take another crack at it.
It's an acquired taste. It's like beer. You just got to drink it for a while until you stop going every time you drink it, which is actually still what I do. It's maybe we're in this time where we're socially distant. We're all missing Walt Disney World, although it is prematurely opened its doors to
well, it hasn't. It's opening next month as of the recording of this episode.
Right, as of recording this.
So future, if you're listening to this any more than a month in the future, I'm going to do two different ones. You know how well that went, or you know how poorly that went. So whichever.
I'm going to do one version, which is if you're listening to this 1 month in the future, Walt Disney World has just opened. If you're listening to this 2 months in the future, you'll remember that Walt Disney opened for about 2 weeks, saw a spike in coronavirus cases, then it closed back down. But no, once this is over and we're all safe in 7 years, then you and me, Adam, will go to Walt Disney World and we will immerse you in the Tower of Terror. We'll ride it 17 times in a row and we'll record the whole thing.
It's my own personal hell, but
we'll start you on a little frog hopper at like a Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, okay. So if you've never been, don't know the ride, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, or the nomenclature, Tower of Terror for short.
Or the TOT.
Or the TOT. It's an accelerated drop tower dark ride. So
yes,
drop tower is any of those attractions that you see at the carnival where you sit in the row and it drops you up and down. Dr. Doom's Fear Fall or anything. It kind of
the frog hop.
The frog hop. And a dark ride, which you talked about what the Haunted Mansion is, located at Disney's Hollywood Studios, Tokyo Disney Sea, Walt Disney Studio Park, which is in Paris, and then formerly at California Adventure. It was rethemed to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
which
incorrectly.
Everyone freaked out when it happened, although I have heard that it's a pretty good ride.
I'm sure it is a fine ride, but they should have put it somewhere else and made another drop tower. Disney can have 2 drop towers as a treat. Yes. And I don't like the fact that happened. Of all the ride rethemings, we all know the most heinous ones in the eyes of Disney fans, which I'm mostly just talking about Aliens extraterrestrial encounter, which I think was good to be rethemed just because the name was bad. But this is one that why did you do it? It's like the Space Ranger spin that got rethemed to Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, why do you do it?
That didn't happen.
I thought that happened in Paris.
Something got rethemed to... No, Rock and Roller Coaster is getting rethemed to Iron Man, I believe.
Well, that's also incorrect.
But
that's just wrong. I want to listen to Aerosmith, not RDJ.
Well, luckily you can still do it in Florida. But the original, all the other attractions besides California one are based off of the Twilight Zone series, except for the Tokyo one, which is its own story, because I don't think the Twilight Zone is as iconic.
It's not really a thing. Yeah.
So,
also, I want to mention, it's not just a drop tower, as you said. It's an accelerated drop tower.
Yes,
I don't know if you have this later.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this.
I want to talk about it. It's wild.
The original version of the attraction opened in 1994 in what was then Disney MGM Studios, which has now been renamed to Hollywood Studios.
Right.
Which is the
not my Hollywood Studios. I still call it MGM Studios.
That's the version that we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
All the rest of the versions besides the ones I mentioned previously are relatively similar. So it was the tallest attraction in Disney World at 199 feet until Expedition Everest opened, which beat it by half a foot.
Yes. As we talked about in the top 5 scary attractions video, I am convinced that an engineer, when they were talking about Expedition Everest, went, we should make it this tall. And then somebody went, well, we want it. How tall is the Tower of Terror? And somebody went, 199 feet. And they went, all right, so that's 6 inches more.
You can put that in.
Which is actually because if anything is over 200 feet, they have to put a little blinking light on it for the aircraft. Yeah.
But so a little bit on the history of this ride.
Ooh.
It actually started off as an idea for the second expansion of Disneyland Paris as a free fall ride in Frontierland named Geyser Mountain.
And just as we know, Disneyland Paris opened and was incredibly successful. And so they did it. And they made Frontierland perfect. And everything went well. Michael Eisner, of course, still the CEO and bathed and has multiple. They replaced all the Disney statues with him, actually.
But so the concept ended up getting scrapped, but picked up for Hollywood Studios or MGM Studios expansion. Some rides for this expansion of the park had already been pitched, including a ride based on Stephen King's novels. Now, I would love
all of them?
Just all of the scary ones.
Okay, just kind of a menagerie. It was called Stephen King's Scary Ride, and it was him talking to you throughout all of them.
I would love to see Disney's take on The Shining. And,
oh, yeah. Okay, you say that like it's a joke, but imagine the kind of like holographic projection technology they have now where they could do the blood coming down the hallway.
The blood elevator?
Yeah.
I mean, they would knock it out of the park, but I don't think...
Yeah, but they would never do it. Yeah.
No. Another one was a Vincent Price ghost tour. A Mel Brooks narrated kind of like funny haunted house ride. An actual hotel. A whodunit interactive murder mystery. And a ride, which this is the one that got closest to conception, a ride based on that classic IP that everybody knows, Dick Tracy's Crime Stoppers.
Which Dick, did you phone? You kind of phoned that name in, huh?
Well, okay.
You went, there are a bunch of characters who stop crime. So what are we going to call these guys?
If you don't know what Dick Tracy's Crime Stoppers is, it was a comic strip made into a film by Touchstone Pictures. Now, Touchstone is Disney's kind of like risky film label that they release films that they're not sure are going to go well under. That was the label that Who Framed Roger Rabbit was released under, because Disney, that way if it fails, Disney can go, oh, that, like, they
Not
can
a
distance
Disney
it as
movie.
Touchstone's. If it's really good, they're like, oh no, that's definitely ours.
Right. Any movie that they go that Disney like has in their parks, or like has ever you've like seen with like a Disney logo, and somebody goes, did you know that was Disney? And you go, no, it was probably Touchstone Pictures.
Yeah, exactly. And Who Framed Roger Rabbit's a great example of that. They didn't know it was going to be successful because it was slightly more mature, and it ended up being a huge success. And Roger Rabbit used to be everywhere in Disney parks until
I wish it still was.
Yeah, until the disagreement with Steven Spielberg happened, but that's another episode. But so lest we forget that this was the Michael Eisner era of Disney, when they were really trying to market,
golden age.
They were really trying to market the park towards teens and young adults. I think specifically for Michael Eisner's teen Breck, but that's my own personal
They were
theory.
only trying to do it for Breck, and they built Extraterrestrial, and he went, I don't like it. And they went, all right, we got to build Videopolis. And they built Videopolis. And then kids died because of gang fights outside. And they went, Breck can't go there. It's too dangerous. And then they built Terror of Terror. And he went, oh, I love the Twilight Zone. You know how all teens and young adults are just so hip on this Twilight Zone thing?
So they eventually settled on the Twilight Zone and decided that they would take guests into the fifth dimension through a 1930s Hollywood hotel. They watched 156, Imagineers watched 156 episodes of the show for inspiration. And I did that last Saturday. What do they want? A medal?
What kind of that's not a fun fact. That's a normal fact.
That's a normal day for me.
Yeah.
But, so they had to create a whole new ride system that could both drive itself horizontally and drop vertically, like an elevator. Right. We'll talk a little bit more about that ride system soon. And so Rod Serling, who is the host and creator of Twilight Zone, had passed away 2 decades prior to the attraction's conception, but they still wanted him to be a part of the attraction because he's so iconic.
Right.
So they,
and that's very sad and all, but it is in some ways good, because if he wasn't dead already, my portrayal of him at the beginning of this podcast would have killed him. So,
but so it's good that he doesn't know that happened.
Yeah.
So they auditioned impressionists, and they had his wife, Carol Serling, choose who would
they lined them up.
Yeah. And they went with a man named Mark Silverman, and he is the one who provides the Rod Serling's voice. And it's amazingly convincing. He sounds just like him. And they used archival footage from a couple of different episodes and kind of combined it all together to make the pre-show video. And so when they were building the ride, they were inspired by Southern Californian and Spanish colonial revival architecture, kind of based around this old Hollywood, Sunset Boulevard kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And what's really cool, and a fun fact that I always point out when I'm at Epcot, is that so you can see the back of the Tower of Terror from Future Worlds and Epcot, and it's right over Morocco. So they designed both the front and mostly the back of the tower so that it would blend pretty seamlessly into the skyline of Morocco. So you wouldn't look and go, hey, that's the Tower of Terror. Like, you wouldn't notice
wild.
it. Isn't it? And earnestly, people don't notice until you point out this fact to them.
Yeah, until they pay you $10 at the door and you give them a secret Epcot tour. As you do. If you're ever in Epcot and you see Adam, you can just say, excuse me, are you lauded podcast host Adam OConnell, and will you, for my $10, give me a tour of Epcot?
It doesn't even have to. You just buy me a margarita in Mexico, and I'll be like, you don't have to give me $10.
Yeah, Adam will actually go, you could just give me $10.
No, just buy me the margarita, and I'll give you a tour. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the ride experience and some fun hidden Easter eggs and how the ride works.
Yeah.
So the building is located, like I said, on the Sunset Boulevard part of the park by Rocket Roller Coaster and the Hollywood Hills Amphitheater. It's really like, it's a very cool sight line when you kind of round the corner of Sunset Boulevard and you see it off in the distance, and you can hear it way before you see it.
Yeah. And so it looks like an old style, like Hollywood kind of hotel. For some reason, when I was a kid, the thing that I associate with this hotel is the song Hotel California. So
I
like,
guess
I don't know why, but in my head,
it is a hotel in California
Right,
that you
right.
don't come back from, presumably.
yeah, you can check in to the Tower of Terror, but you can never leave, which I think is another reason why I associate it
Hotel
with.
California could be about Tower of Terror.
Is Hotel California?
I'm not saying
about-
it is.
The Eagles went on Tower of Terror. They were so
Before it was
scared.
built.
They wrote Hotel California, and then they got so angry because some of them liked the ride and some of them hated the ride, and that's actually why the Eagles broke up.
Even before the ride was actually built in 1994.
Built.
So the queue is okay. I didn't put this in the outline. I totally should have. But so when you are walking, the queue starts outside before you actually get into the inside portion. And when you are walking outside, the pathway to get inside is not a flat pathway. There's actually parts of it that are raised by just like, or lower by just like 2 or 3 degrees. And by that, it apparently creates this weird sense of unease as you're getting closer to the building that you can't quite put your finger on. But it's because you're walking on this uneven ground that you can't clock with your eyes.
And you have that kind of like, oh, that ground is a little bit shorter than I thought it was going to be. Oh,
Something's wrong here.
Kind of like missing a step.
Yeah. But so the queue is low-key my favorite part of this ride. It's also the part of this ride that I experience most often because what I will do is wait
Just walk
online
through-
for it with my friends on family. And then when we get to boarding the elevator, I'll go see ya. And they bring me down in the chicken elevator.
Adam O'Connell, you are the only human being alive who goes to Disney World to wait in the queues. And then
I
that's it.
guarantee you, I am not the only person who does this.
God, Disney is weird. We can like obviously this isn't an amusement park podcast. We just happen to talk about scary rides. I there's so much about my opinion about Disney as a whole that is like super complicated. But like their queue design is such like, just as a person who likes design and thinks about design a lot, it's so goddamn good. It is so
good.
cool. It is so weird because it's also like there's another part of me that hates the fact that Disney is able to engineer the way people feel through their queue design. But like,
really freaky.
it's so cool. It's so cool. And the queue, as you say, it is probably the best part of the ride. The best part of the ride comes before the drop, but the queue is like right up there.
Yeah. So you walk through this very purposefully dusty, cobweb-covered, long-forgotten hotel lobby. And there's a lot of cool Twilight pieces of memorabilia from the show, like kind of scattered in different places throughout the lobby, including glasses from the episode Time Enough at Last, which is the one
best.
where the guy is the last man on Earth, and he's
best
like, oh, I
episode
can read
of
all
the
these
Twilight
books.
Zone.
Yeah, breaks his glasses. And then also a cookbook titled To Serve Man, which is from that episode where they run into aliens and realize that the aliens are reading this cook, like to serve. They're not learning to serve man. They're
learning
how,
to serve man on a platter.
Yeah. So you were then directed to a library where you watched the pre-show video where Rod Serling announces that tonight's episode of Twilight Zone will be starring you.
Ooh.
He tells the story of the Tower's curse, which is on a stormy night, Hollywood 1939, Halloween night. 5 people, a celebrity couple, their young daughter, her nanny, and a bellhop boarded an elevator when the tower was struck by lightning, causing everyone in the elevator to vanish on the 13th floor, along with an entire wing of the building.
Oh,
So
and not vanish as a lightning strike can't do, which would be like just it got destroyed. It got transported
into the fifth dimension,
the Twilight Zone.
So you are then brought to the boiler room to board the maintenance service elevator, as your room is not ready yet. One of my favorite things about this queue is the music in the lobby. They have all these old kind of decrepit versions of 1930s jazz standards playing. It's
very much, Adam, you probably don't understand this reference, but it's very Fallout. It's very,
no, I know what Fallout is.
Very Fallout music, because they do that kind of thing.
I get what you mean. But I always listen to this music loop when I'm like doing homework. But not that I'm doing homework anymore because I got my diploma.
Yeah, we're adults now.
But some other fun facts about the queue in the lobby. According to a plaque in the lobby, the hotel has 13 diamonds from AAA. Now, AAA can only award 5 diamonds total. So
that is a joke that a ride engineer thought of and thought it was the funniest thing ever. It's like when SNL writes skits that are only funny to writers.
Yeah. There is a felt letterboard in the lobby with the hotel's directory for amenities and stuff. It's located between the two broken elevators, and missing letters have fallen to the bottom of the board that spell "You are doomed."
Ah.
And there are folded up notes at the bellhop services desk that are actually notes from the original CM cast members of the attraction.
Oh, neat.
And then whenever new people get trained there, they get to read the notes. And then when they leave, they get to write notes of their own.
Very cute. You are doomed. It was interesting that they came up with the thing that my high school bully texted me.
Yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday. He's coming.
So we'll talk about the ride itself now. So you get to the boiler room, and then you board this elevator and rise up before encountering the first show scene, where you see the 5 missing passengers appear using the Pepper's Ghost effect, which you talked about in the Haunted Mansion episode. If you don't remember, it's when they kind of put that sheet of glass at an angle and reflect a light through it. So the animatronics or figures are actually
around and to the left.
Yeah, somewhere you can't see, and they are projected, so they look like ghosts. And they beckon guests to join them before vanishing in a flash of electricity. Then you rise again and arrive in the maintenance room, which transforms into a field of stars as your elevator car proceeds forward, which is such a crazy part because you thought you're just moving up and down. And then you
the
can
best
move forward.
moment. That's the best moment that I was talking about, and it's possibly one of the best moments. It shows why Disney exists. As we've talked about, like Disney creates these rides that are just basic amusement park rides and then raises them up. So like Tower of Terror is a drop tower, but this moment where you're like, I know what a drop tower is. This is the elevator. We're going to go up and we're going to drop. And then you move forward, and you move forward during this incredible, I remember going on this ride multiple times and like trying to clock the effects of
it's
the
really crazy.
It's like a bunch of mirrors, and there are some Pepper's Ghost effects going on, but it looks like a flat star field, and then you start to move through it, and it like becomes 3D as you move. It is so wild, and that mixed with the fact that you move forward is so wild.
It's one of the few Disney attractions where it is so hard to clock the effects.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the times when you're in an attraction, you can like see where things are coming from or exactly what they're doing to make the illusion. Tower of Terror, like a lot of times you can't tell.
Yeah, a lot of the like there's like a genre of anti-Disney people who like will cite the fact that you can tell when like effects are being used in Disney rides to like discount them. And then there's another genre of Disney fans who think that is the fun part. But like, as we move on and technology gets better and better, like Rise of the Resistance is like really hard to clock, like because the effects are so goddamn good that it starts to get unnoticeable. And Tower of Terror was made in a time when most of the Disney rides were clockable. Like the closest you got were like really lifelike animatronics, or like Spaceship Earth, where you're like, or like the freaking Johnny Depp animatronic in Pirates of the Caribbean. But Tower of Terror is so unclockable, especially for the time. Like it is so,
it still holds up really well.
Yeah.
But so as you proceed forward, you then arrive in another elevator shaft, and you hear the Twilight Zone theme and Serling's voice again, saying you are about to discover what lies beyond the 5th dimension, beyond the deepest, darkest corner of the imagination in the Tower of Terror.
And then the window rises up. And then doesn't a window rise up so you like see before you drop?
In a part of the drop sequence, yes, but usually the first drop is in darkness.
Oh, okay. But still, the thing you discover is that gravity exists in the 5th dimension.
Yeah, but does it?
But it's not gravity. Yeah.
Yeah. When we say drops, the Tower of Terror is not actually free falling like many drop tower rides are. The car is actually getting pulled down by cables, so it is falling faster than the speed of gravity. At a top speed of 39 miles an hour, this is why you lift up out of your seat as you drop, because gravity cannot catch up with how fast you are moving down. Right.
And there is like in other drop towers where you are just affected by gravity, you will lift out of your seat. It's a thing called Airtime Cheese, negative G forces. And the thing is that this elevator actually uses what an elevator uses. It uses a big counterweight, but it also uses what a drop tower uses, which is this big, basically a winch, right? But it's connected at both ends. So when the weight is pulled up by the winch, it's not only being pulled up like it is with a regular weight, where it's being pulled up by the weight of the elevator. It's also getting pulled up by the winch, so you're pulling down on the elevator, which is it. Your body is in some ways used to free fall because of stuff like drop towers and the fact that we all seek out these negative G-force experiences for some reason. But because it's pulling you faster, your body's like, wait. And it's like the 2 or 3 degree Q design thing, where it's just that little bit that you can't perceive that is throwing you off.
Yeah, it's true. It's not only just weightlessness that you'll feel on anything that drops, but almost a floating sensation because of how fast it's going. And that's why this is my own personal hell, because my least favorite part of any dropping is the feeling you get in your stomach when you have those negative Gs. And this is that, like,
which is my favorite feeling. My favorite feeling in the whole world.
It's like I could probably do more dropping things if I was strapped down so goddamn hard like that. There was no way I could feel any negative G-forces.
But Adam, the whole point is that your body moves with the thing, but your guts lift up.
I hate that. Okay,
you're made of water. It's literally not possible.
I wish I wasn't.
I wish I could turn into stone in that moment.
But anyway, there's also a video on YouTube of people who managed to wiggle out of their seatbelts as the drop sequence began. Don't do that. Don't.
Everything about that's bad.
Not only will you get in trouble and banned from the parks, but you could seriously injure yourself.
Yeah.
So at least once during the sequence, you reach about 157 feet above ground level and the windows open and you get that aerial view of the park.
Yes.
That usually doesn't happen at the beginning. It happens at some point once you've reached the highest point. And the length of the full drop is 130 feet. 13 stories. And the ride, when it first opened, the whole thing was just the single 130-foot drop. It was changed 2 years later to do 2 drops and then to a triple drop in 1999 because the payoff of just the one big drop is not as
right.
So, but in 2004, for the ride's 10th anniversary, they launched the Never the Same Fear Twice campaign and randomized the drop sequence pattern so it will be a different experience every time you rode it.
Which is the coolest idea ever. Like, that's so cool.
There are 4 randomized drop sequences that are randomly programmed into each car, so you never know what you're going to get when you ride it. And these sequences always include a faux drop, like a fake drop meant to startle riders, so just a little jump.
Very good.
And then one full 130-foot drop, usually in succession with each other.
Right. And
it can happen at any point.
Yeah, and that's so interesting because, like, as a person who is super into thrill rides, roller coasters, like, I've ridden like King to Cod 9-10 times now at this point in my life. For a lot of us, the like thrill-seeking aspect is that you want to ride like the tallest ride ever, or the fastest ride ever, or the steepest ride ever. And there's a part of you that hasn't experienced it before, so that's exciting. And then you start to learn it, and you're like, oh, I've done this a million times. And like a lot of thrill people don't like Disney because they don't do those kinds of thrill rides. But the move of something like a randomized drop sequence in a thing like this adds that little bit of, oh, I've never experienced that before. That is so goddamn cool. It's the best ride in Disney. It's the best one.
It's really like great. So once the drop sequence finishes, you arrive in the basement and then kind of you see the swirling vortex of like the season 3 opening of the Twilight Zone. And Rod Serling warns you to make sure you always know what kind of vacancy you're filling or else you may become permanent residents of the Twilight Zone.
Just as he did. Aw, sad.
But so you exit the ride past the old lost and found desk of the hotel where you'll see a lot of other cool props from the show. And then you go into the gift shop. The gift shop has a lot of fun stuff, including Hollywood Tower Hotel slippers and bathrobes and like little bellhop hats and what are they, like the bells for the desk.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I wouldn't want to be a cast member working in there because any child who sees this table full of bells is going to go like all day. So I wouldn't want to be working there, but it's a really well-themed, cute gift shop. And I want one of those robes, but they're like $140.
Yeah.
And it exits out into a really pretty courtyard where I say again, you can get married and I will get married.
Yeah,
that is
maybe
a promise and a threat.
One of our listeners is that lucky fella that's going to marry Adam one day in the Tower of Terror garden.
In the little garden out back. There's also a 1997 made-for-TV movie based on the attraction starring Kirsten Dunst.
Good for you, girl. Cash that check.
Yeah, it wasn't based off of the Twilight Zone show. It just
It was
off of the
based
ride.
off the Tower of Terror.
Yeah, I don't know how they got about that, like copyright-wise.
Phantom of the Megaplex, but now it's the Tower of Terror.
So last time we finished off the Haunted Mansion episode by doing a kind of little fact versus fiction game. And as any good Disney attraction does, the Tower of Terror has some similar ones. So I would like to play that game again.
Okay.
So Devin, I have some common myths, rumors, stories about the Tower of Terror.
Okay.
And you have to tell me if you think they are fact or fiction.
Okay. Are any of them about what are they called? The lost animatronics that come and try and kill you in the night when you
the false?
Yeah.
No, none of them involve I'm sorry. Okay, the first one, the Tower of Terror was actually struck by lightning during construction.
I mean, it's the tallest thing in the park, so I'm going to say yeah.
The answer, which I now have to unhighlight. Oh my God. I'm going to tell you I know the answer. The answer is unconfirmed. So it is unconfirmed if it happened during construction, but the Tower of Terror has definitely been struck by lightning plenty of times since. You can look it up on YouTube. There's plenty of videos of it. Storms are incredibly common in Central Florida, especially during the summer. The state is pretty flat, and the Tower of Terror is really tall.
Yeah.
So it's totally expected. There is a lightning rod up top of the tower for this exact reason. It's been struck by lightning while people are on it. Like it's really because it's a lightning rod. It's really not a huge deal, but it looks really cool.
Right. It just seems like the kind of thing where like somebody would be like, "Did you know there was actually a whole extra wing of the attraction?" And then the lightning struck it and it vanished. And they went, "I have a great idea for this ride."
Yeah. All right. Rumor myth number 2. The Tower of Terror was intended to be an actual functioning hotel and has a fully furnished room inside. You can see the light of this room turned on from the front of this attraction.
Okay. I think parts of this are true. So I think that you can see a light on in a room, but I'm betting it's like a maintenance room or something. I think it's like that the idea is like based on the actual fact that they were going to make it a real hotel. And then maybe there's like a fully furnished room in there just because, for like the same reason. Where's the firehouse on Main Street has like a thing above it where like
Disneyland,
Walt Disney used to be.
Yeah, and Cinderella Castle has the room in Disney World.
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
Okay, so you're almost right. This is partially true. The idea of the tower being a functioning hotel was being tossed around, and Michael Eisner kind of wanted it to be both a functioning hotel and a ride, but the idea ends up getting scrapped because of how impractical that would be.
Yeah.
Because here's the problem too, because like again, rooms in the park are not uncommon. Cinderella Castle has that suite that guests have stayed in before. But the thing about it is when you have guests in there, they can't leave the room after the park closed. So there needs to be a 24/7 concierge in this little desk outside the room. So if you need like diapers or something, that they have to go out and get it for you.
Yeah.
So it's
which they will need diapers because there's no bathroom in this hotel room, actually.
There is a bathroom in the hotel room, but there's but so the idea of that plus it being a functioning attraction,
right?
Like would be
nobody would want to stay there. You'd have to like hear if you ever wanted to go home, like back to your room in the middle of the day, you'd have to hear the giant winch cranking all day.
And that's the thing too. You can tell from the street because sometimes Tower of Terror is a ride that goes down a lot, as a lot of e-ticket attractions do, and you can tell when they're testing or when it's fully running, because you can hear people screaming from far down Main. Like you can hear it running without people on it, but you can hear the screaming from the entrance of Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
And you can see a light on in a room in the front, but it is simply decorative.
Oh, okay.
Now, very interesting, and most people don't get to see this because the path is really that you can see this from is really only ever open for crowd control. But around back of the attraction, which you can see if you're exiting Phantasmic and they've opened it up to just like let more people out too. There is a room that has a light on and has a silhouette of a man in the window.
Ah, and that man is the fusion of Serling and Disney and put together.
Nobody ever really notices this, and it's quite freaky because it totally looks like a person up there.
Yeah.
And you see people kind of pointing it out and debating whether or not it is an actual person or just a decorative prop. Okay. Myth number 3. The Tower of Terror once experienced an actual elevator malfunction during a ride in the 90s, resulting in multiple guest injuries.
I'm going to say not true, only because I've watched videos about the engineering of the ride, and I don't think any malfunction would result in a guest injury.
Okay, this is actually 100% true.
Ah.
So there was a private party riding the attraction on September 15th, 1998, when the drop sequence malfunctioned and caused a sudden emergency stop. So here's the thing.
Okay, so people would be like bruised. Okay.
Yeah, here's the thing about Disney attractions too, is that when something goes wrong in any attraction, it's going to make an emergency stop, which can be quite the jarring kind of halt.
Yeah.
It's not like it failed and fell.
Yeah, somebody cricked their neck and was like, ah.
Yeah. And I've experienced it I've been on an emergency stop on Test Track before, and that was painful.
Yeah.
Because it was during the last sequence. It hurt. But that's pretty much the automatic thing for an emergency stop. Guests were all the guests on board were treated at the hospital for neck and back injuries, but they were all okay.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, so any attraction is going to e-stop like that. And if it's a fast-moving attraction like Tower of Terror or Test Track, it's going to hurt a little bit. Yeah. But it is much preferable to something else failing. It's for your safety. It's the same reason that real elevators stop. They stop because something's wrong, you know? Yeah. And the last and most interesting one, myth that I would like to go over, is that there is a cursed dummy inside the attraction, and if cast members aren't respectful to him, the ride malfunctions.
Okay, yeah, this is like this has now become that game on the Tonight Show, which I'm not a fan of, but whatever, where they do the two truths and the lie. I get to ask you a question now. What kind of dummy?
A ventriloquist dummy.
Ah, that is a good idea. I think you made this up for a goof, and it's a good goof, and I'm thankful to you for it. Because it's a good goof, Adam, but I don't believe it.
Okay, well, it's allegedly correct.
Don't stop that.
There is a ventriloquist dummy inside the attraction at the Lost and Found desk at the exit. His name is Caesar, and he is from an episode of the Twilight Zone called Caesar and Me. And he has versions at both Lost and Found desks and both like exits of the attraction, because there's two different like shaft areas and two identical exits. Yeah. So now Caesar is allegedly, apparently, according to cast members that work this attraction, Caesar kind of runs the show there. And but
it's just a fun goof thing.
The following experiences come from a friend of mine who is a former cast member at the Tower of Terror,
who will go unnamed. It's Walt Disney.
It's Walter Elias Disney. So if new leaders come into the attractions, like new managers, and they do not bring donuts on their first day, the attraction will go down.
Okay. And if they're Dunkin' Donuts, it will go down, but only a little bit. They have to be good donuts, Krispy Kreme donuts.
If you don't say good morning and good night to Caesar, you can expect at least one of the elevator shafts to at least one of them to go down on the next day.
That's okay. I mean, that's fair.
This is a direct quote from her. One time my friend cussed him out and the whole building was down the next day. It was an absolute train wreck to work, but we knew it was her fault the whole day.
Oh, God. Okay, this is true.
And
this is true then.
Yeah. So you have to acknowledge both of the Caesars, or else bad things will happen. And by bad things, I mean the attraction will go down and you're going to have to deal with a bunch of angry people who can't use their fast pass because the attraction has gone down.
And they're named Caesar. They're the consuls of the Rome that is the Tower of Terror. The two Caesars.
The hubris and how it falls. But And I'll take this opportunity to shout out to the cast members of the Tower of Terror, because similarly to the Haunted Mansion, it's one of those few attractions where the theming allows them to be a little spooky.
Yeah,
you know?
be cast members.
Yeah, they kind of get to play the part of ghosts or whatever kind of spirits they may be that are still working this long abandoned hotel. And the way that I've seen a lot of cast members do it is they kind of do it with this same air of like grace and courtesy as a bellhop in 1930s would, but like creepy in like a ghostly kind of way.
I like that.
Yeah, and also the costumes for the cast members of this attraction are great. They have these beautiful coats for their winter wear. It's like an A-line bottom, and it's got all, what is it called? The thing like not the shoulder pads, but like the general
things.
Yeah. On the side,
rivulets
and all these
or something.
Buttons. Yeah. They're beautiful, and it's a bummer they don't get to wear them more because Florida's hot. But when it's cold enough,
winter wear.
When it's like 60 degrees, they wear them.
Yeah.
But yes, that is the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, an attraction that I am trying so desperately to learn to love.
Yes.
Because I love her so much from afar.
An attraction I can't wait to ride with you multiple times in a row when we eventually go to Disney together.
The thing is, if I don't have to wait a long time, I'll get right on it. But the more time I spend in the queue,
you get unsettled by the uneven ground.
Yeah, the more chances I will take to split. So we just have to get a fast pass.
You have to get a fast pass. That's true. Okay. Well, we're not going to be able to get a fast pass for Millennium Falcon or for Slinky Dog Dash, which are the other e-ticket attractions that you would want to use your fast pass on. Since obviously Rise of the Resistance, you have to get a boarding pass and all that.
Yeah, I don't think you can get, because they have like the A tier and the B tier attractions.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can get for both Millennium and Slinky Dog, but I think Tower of Terror has gotten moved down to the B tier.
That's a very big deal.
Isn't right? Like you can get,
Oh my God. Because don't you only get 2 A tiers a day and then
you get one unlimited... A tier and you get 1 A tier and 2 B tiers. And then once you use all 3, you can get 1 more fast pass for any attraction.
That was our Disney advice.
Yeah, use your fast passes wisely, folks.
Oh yeah, and use them as early in the day as possible. But plan your whole trip around them. And your fast pass opens up 60 days before your reservation. You're welcome.
90 days if you're staying in a resort.
And then 60 days.
60 days if you're staying in a resort, 30 days if you're not. Something like that.
Right. 60 days if you're staying at a Disney resort, 30 days if you're not.
For more tips.
Check out Disney Food Blog.
Tweet me at Adam J. O'Connell and I'll tell you all about fast passes.
Yeah, anyway, that has been our episode about the Tower of Terror. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a rate and review on iTunes if you're there. If you are listening on Spotify, we love Spotify, but there's not really a good way to get notified when new things get posted, but you can follow us there. That does help out quite a lot, and you can share the episodes pretty easily from there. On that note, if you really enjoyed this podcast, the best way to help us grow is to share it with a friend who likes getting spooked, because we also like getting spooked, but especially we love recording this podcast for y'all. It is very fun to do. Adam, can you pimp our social medias?
Yes, we are on Facebook at The Great American Scream or on Twitter at Great Scream Pod. If there is something you would like to see us talk about on the show, or you want to comment on some stuff we talked about in the show, you can tweet at us or post using the hashtag TGAS.
Yes, and a special thank you goes out to Michael Segudo, who records the intro for this podcast. He doesn't, I said records as if he records it every week and sends it to me.
Live every week.
He did the intro for the podcast, and Stevie Viola did our theme music. You can check him out on Twitter and YouTube. But Adam, I think that's going to do it for us. I've been Devin Wright.
Too. I've been Adam O'Connell.
And hopefully you have been spooked after being pulled down in an elevator that's been haunted by Caesar the Dummy.
But that is a very safe elevator.
Very safe elevator, so you will be getting spooked very safely.
Safely.
The Twilight.